The road to Whispering Pines curled through a tunnel of evergreens, late winter frost clinging to the branches like sugar on glass. Jordan Taylor eased his Tesla around the last bend, his fingers relaxing on the steering wheel as the mountains opened up before him. The air felt different up here, cooler, cleaner, untouched by city breath. After 10 straight days in Chicago for a tech conference that ended up being more schmoozing than substance, the silence was a welcome companion. He rolled down the window. Pine. Smoke. A distant woodpecker tapping. Somewhere out there, the lake slept under a thin sheet of ice. It was why he bought this place. Peace. Whispering Pines wasn't cheap, nor particularly welcoming when he first toured it. But Jordan could afford it now. Years of grinding as a software engineer and co-founding a data analytics startup had finally paid off. His Seattle apartment had city views and rooftop lounges. But this cabin, his cabin, was his. Tucked away on Lot 23, just shy of the HOA's obsessive main drag, with a long gravel drive that offered just enough privacy. No shared walls. No office politics. Just trees, stillness, and fiber internet. The gate recognized his license plate and slid open without a sound. Jordan gave a polite nod to the stone-faced security guard in the booth. Same guy as always, though he still never smiled. A couple walking their golden doodle paused to watch him drive by. The woman gave a short wave. The man didn't. Still not used to seeing me here, Jordan muttered to himself, lips quirking. He wasn't surprised. Whispering Pines wasn't built with people like him in mind. Young, black, and single. The community prided itself on safety, quiet, and standards. Which was code Jordan knew for white, conservative, and suspicious of outsiders. But he played by their rules. Paid HOA dues on time. Didn't blast music. Never had guests over. Hell, he even submitted an approval request just to paint his deck the exact same color it was. The cabin appeared around the bend like something from a snow globe. 2 stories of rich timber and glass, framed by tall Douglas firs. The wraparound porch sat under a dusting of snow, untouched. Or so he thought. Jordan frowned. There were footprints. Fresh ones. Several pairs. Small ones, large ones. They dotted the snow between the drive and the porch, curving around toward the side of the house. A trail of tire tracks, not his, scarred the gravel beside the garage. One of the porch lights was on. He hadn't left any on. His frown deepened, but he shook it off. Maybe the HOA maintenance crew had stopped by. A busted pipe? Snow inspection? He did email the board before leaving, letting them know he'd be gone for 2 weeks. Something about transparency in their guidelines. Maybe that was a mistake. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He parked and stepped out, crunching snow underfoot. As he walked up the steps, his eyes flicked to the fake rock by the door, the one that hid the spare key. Gone. His breath caught. He reached for his phone, thumb hovering over the camera app. Then, he hesitated. No need to assume the worst. Not yet. Still, Jordan didn't call out. He eased the door open slowly. It wasn't locked. And the smell hit him immediately. Cooked food, lavender air freshener, and something else. Occupancy. The sound of a dishwasher running. A small child's voice echoing from upstairs. Then the bark of a dog. Jordan froze. A golden retriever appeared in the hallway, tail wagging, tongue lolling. Behind it, a woman in yoga pants and a Patagonia fleece stepped into view, holding a mug like she owned the place. And for a moment, they both just stared at each other. Then she screamed, "Who the hell are you?" Jordan blinked. "I'm the owner. Who the hell are you?" She backed up, setting her mug down with trembling hands. You can't just break into someone's rental. Where's the listing agent?" He stepped inside slowly. "This isn't a rental." "Of course it is. We booked it through the HOA Community Share Program. We were told it was vacant for the season." Jordan's brow furrowed. "That's not a real program." "It is," Linda Blake said. "Linda," he cut in. "As an HOA board Linda?" The woman looked startled. The dog growled lightly behind her. Jordan took a slow breath and scanned the space. His throw blanket had been moved. His couch cushions were different. Toys were strewn across the rug. The fireplace was burning. This wasn't a quick stop by. They'd moved in. The silence stretched too long. Something in his chest hardened. He pulled out his phone and started recording. The video feed from Jordan's phone trembled slightly as he panned across the living room. His voice stayed calm, but clipped, colder now, like a steel door slowly locking into place. Today's date is March 6th. This is my private residence at 147 Cedar HOA, Whispering Pines. Returned early from a work trip. Found unknown individuals occupying my home without permission. The woman flinched. You're recording me? You broke into my home, Jordan said evenly.
Yeah.
I'm recording. Before she could respond, footsteps thundered down the stairs. A man in a gray t-shirt and wet hair appeared at the landing.
He froze when he saw Jordan.
Honey, there's a man here, she snapped. He's filming me. The man squinted. Wait, I thought you said the cabin was unoccupied. I was told it was. Linda said she assured me. Jordan interrupted. Okay, someone needs to explain now. How long have you been in my house? 5 days, the man said reluctantly. We got here Friday. Unbelievable. Jordan took a step forward. So, not only did you break into my home, but you've lived in it for nearly a week? It wasn't breaking in, the woman insisted. We had a key. My key, Jordan snapped. Stolen from the fake rock by you, or whoever sent you. I'm calling Linda, the woman muttered, reaching for her phone. She said this place was part of the winter exchange list, some kind of HOA quiet cabin program. There is no such program, Jordan said through clenched teeth. And I have an email thread with the HOA confirming I wouldn't be renting my home out. The man gave a helpless shrug, as if he were just a passenger in his wife's delusion. The golden retriever padded over to Jordan and wagged its tail, betraying no loyalty. The woman stepped outside onto the porch, clearly to make a phone call. Jordan turned to the man. You realize you could be arrested for trespassing, right? We really thought it was legit, he said, avoiding eye contact. I'm sorry, man. I swear. My wife, she said. Linda gave her the okay. Jordan didn't reply. He simply walked through the house, filming the evidence. Kids' jackets hanging on his hooks, his guest bed now cluttered with half-unpacked suitcases, juice boxes in the fridge next to his unopened bottle of scotch. The utter audacity of it all made his skin crawl. By the time he returned to the living room, the woman was pacing on the porch. He opened the front door. Is Linda coming here? He asked.
No. She's busy.
But she says you're being aggressive, and you weren't supposed to be back until next week. Jordan's laugh was short and humorless. Did she also mention that this is my house? She said you'd probably overreact. She warned me you might be, she hesitated, glancing away. Difficult. There it was. Jordan felt the old weight settle on his shoulders, the one he thought he'd shaken off when he left the city. The look, the coded language, the way difficult stretched and bent until it meant something else entirely. Get out, he said flatly. What? Pack your things. Get your family out of my home. Now. Her face hardened. You're being very hostile. This could have been resolved calmly. I've been calm for the past 15 minutes while you stood in my house and lied to me, Jordan said. You've had days to realize this wasn't yours. That's not a mistake. That's theft. And if you don't leave, I will call the sheriff. She crossed her arms.
Fine.
I'll call them first. She tapped her screen. Yes, hello. I'm in Whispering Pines at 147 Cedar HOA. There's a man here claiming to be the owner. Yes, he's yelling and filming us, and I feel unsafe. I'm here with my kids. Can someone please come right away? Jordan stood still, arms at his sides, gaze level. He didn't say a word, didn't give her the satisfaction. But inside, his pulse roared. When she hung up, she smirked. Let's see what they have to say about this. Jordan sighed and dialed his own phone. He contacted the non-emergency sheriff line, explained the situation clearly and calmly, and said he'd be waiting on his porch with ID and documentation. The next 30 minutes passed like sandpaper dragging across skin. The couple scrambled to gather their things, all while muttering about how unprofessional he was being. The kids, oblivious to the tension, asked if they'd still get to go sledding later. Finally, the rumble of tires announced the arrival of a county deputy SUV. 2 officers stepped out, one older, one young and stocky. Both rested a hand near their holsters as they approached. Jordan stood tall, wallet in one hand, phone still recording in the other. "Good afternoon, officers." The older deputy nodded. "We got a report of a disturbance?" "This is my home," Jordan said, calmly handing over his ID and a printed property deed. "I returned from a trip to find it occupied without my permission." The younger officer turned toward the couple, now standing by their Subaru with the trunk open. "She told us it was a rental, through some HOA deal." "It's not," Jordan said. "And I've got emails from the HOA board verifying that. I never listed it." The officers reviewed the documents. The older one scratched his head, clearly uncomfortable. "Well, it does look like you're the legal owner. And you've got evidence." "So," the woman's face twisted into something between outrage and confusion. "But Linda said, we'll take it up with the HOA." The officer cut her off. "But for now, ma'am, I'm going to need you and your family to leave the property immediately. This gentleman has every right to ask you to vacate." The man gave Jordan a stiff nod. "Sorry again." The woman didn't say anything. She just buckled the kids in and slammed the car doors. As they drove off, the golden retriever barked once through the cracked rear window. The SUV turned onto the road and disappeared around the bend. Jordan stood alone again, heart pounding, porch quiet. The officer gave him a tight smile. "Next time, sir, might be good to get some kind of security system installed." Jordan raised an eyebrow. "Or a different HOA." The cabin smelled like someone else's life. Jordan stood in the middle of his living room, arms crossed, staring at the space, as if willing it to reset itself. Every detail felt tainted: the half-folded laundry basket near the fireplace, the scratches in the wooden floors from careless boots, the faint scent of lavender detergent lingering in the air like an uninvited guest. The couple may have left, but their presence clung like mildew. He didn't touch anything at first, just paced. Room by room, he documented the damage on video. His guest bed with juice stains, the broken cabinet hinge in the kitchen, toys left under the dining table, crayon on one wall of the den. He found food wrappers in drawers, a sippy cup behind the couch. He stood in his own bedroom and noticed how the pillows were arranged exactly how he liked them. Someone had been sleeping in his bed, on his side, under his sheets. He took a deep breath. Then another. This was supposed to be his sanctuary, his escape. And instead, it was just another battlefield. By the time he called Linda Blake, his voice was steady, but threaded with ice. She picked up on the second ring.
"Oh."
"Jordan, I heard there was a bit of a misunderstanding." "A break-in, Linda." There was a pause. "Well, now, I don't think that's the most constructive language. You gave someone permission to enter and stay in my home without my knowledge. That's not a misunderstanding. That's trespassing. Possibly even unlawful entry. Let's not get dramatic. They were friends of mine.
Good people.
They needed a break from the city, and your place was going to be empty, and I thought." "You thought," he cut in. "This is my property. You had no authority to offer it to anyone." "I was under the impression you'd given us flexibility," she said, voice tightening. "You emailed the HOA that you'd be away. And several of us have discussed forming a community guest-sharing initiative during the off-season. We thought you'd be open to that." "I specifically declined to be part of that program," Jordan said. "And I have the email to prove it." More silence. Then, defensively, "Well, if you feel the need to pursue legal action, I suppose that's your right. But I'd advise you to think about how that might look, to the board, to your neighbors. People here value unity, not division." Jordan almost laughed. There it was again. Polite threats wrapped in HOA doublespeak. Unity meant silence. Respect meant deference. Community meant control. "Don't worry," he said. "I'll handle this the right way." He filed a formal complaint with the HOA that night. A notarized letter, photographs, and the security footage from his Nest Cam, thankfully still functional and uploading to the cloud, showing Linda on his porch the day after he left for Chicago, using his fake rock key. The next day, he received a curt email from the HOA president. "We are reviewing the situation and will respond within 14 business days." 14 days. Jordan closed his laptop and stared out the window. The forest swayed gently in the wind, the lake beyond it shimmering beneath a pale blue sky. He had come here for this: nature, space, stillness. But even here, he wasn't untouchable. Even surrounded by trees, he still had to prove he belonged. The days that followed were quiet, but not peaceful. Neighbors passed his driveway with curious glances. Some waved too eagerly. Others avoided eye contact altogether. One man in a beige windbreaker slowed his jog to a walk near the mailbox, looked up at the cabin, and then kept going. Jordan noticed how the tone in the community Facebook group shifted. Subtle things. Posts about unusual activity near the lake. A warning to double-check property boundaries. A picture of a black bear seen prowling near Lot 23. He didn't comment, just watched. Then, a message arrived in his inbox. Private. From an older couple down the hill, Thomas and Evelyn Gray. They'd kept to themselves until now. Subject: "We saw what happened. Jordan, we've lived here for 22 years. We saw the police at your place, and we know Linda was involved. For what it's worth, we're sorry. That wasn't right. We've had our own run-ins with her. She gets too comfortable deciding what rules to bend for her people. Let us know if you ever want to talk. Or just sit and breathe. Tom and Evelyn." He reread the message twice, unsure whether to be comforted or more disturbed. The quiet acknowledgement was something, but it still felt like too little too late. The whole community watched while strangers took over his home and said nothing. 3 days later, a letter appeared in his mailbox. Plain envelope. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with block print. "You're not a good fit here. Sell the cabin and leave." Jordan read it, then read it again. His first reaction wasn't fear. It was anger, cold and sharp. He wasn't going anywhere. He scanned the letter, noted the paper stock, the typewriter-style font. There were no fingerprints. He checked anyway, gloved. He filed a report with the sheriff's office and added it to his growing file of evidence. That night, he sat on the porch with a bourbon in hand and stared out into the forest. He thought about his grandfather, who'd spent 20 years saving up for a house he never got to live in. About the barbed wire history wrapped around land ownership in this country. How peace for Black folks often came with conditions. He wasn't just going to stay. He was going to own it.
Publicly.
Jordan didn't plan to go public at first. He just wanted the HOA to fix it quietly, professionally. Maybe Linda would step down, maybe they'd update some policies, and maybe, just maybe, the rest of the neighborhood would realize he wasn't going anywhere. That he wasn't some passive, grateful recipient of their tolerance. He was a homeowner, a taxpayer, a man who bought peace with hard work and didn't owe anyone his silence. But then came the HOA's official response. After reviewing your complaint and speaking with Ms. Blake, the board has concluded that there was a miscommunication regarding property usage and guest access during the off-season. No further action will be taken at this time. No apology. No discipline. Not even a recognition that what happened was wrong. Just a smug, polished dismissal wrapped in committee language. That was the last straw. Jordan edited together the video footage he'd taken. The moment he entered the cabin, the woman's stunned expression, her call to the police, the officer's arrival, and finally, Linda's name being mentioned clearly on camera. He added his narration, calm, factual, no sensationalism. Just a man explaining how a neighbor thought she had the right to give his house away while he was gone. He uploaded it to YouTube with a simple title. "My HOA board member let her friends squat in my cabin while I was away." Within hours, it started spreading. Reddit picked it up. So did Twitter. Karen stories never got old, especially ones backed by video receipts. The hashtags came quickly. Hashtag HOA Karen, hashtag Cabin Squattergate, hashtag Whispering Pines. Hundreds of comments poured in. Black homeowners, first-gen property owners, and even white suburbanites fed up with HOA power trippers. Some praised him. Some begged for updates. A few trolls emerged too, of course, calling him ungrateful, divisive, a liar, but they were quickly buried under a sea of public support. By the next morning, a local reporter reached out. By the end of the week, so did a national one. Whispering Pines couldn't ignore it anymore. Suddenly, the HOA president sent a follow-up email. "We are deeply concerned by the recent incident and the misrepresentation of our community in public forums." Translation: they were panicking. Linda Blake quietly resigned from the board that weekend. No announcement. No apology.
Just gone.
A new ethics and access policy was rushed through, requiring all board members to disclose interactions involving property access or temporary accommodation facilitation. It was toothless, but it was something. A few neighbors came around, tentative visits, casseroles in hand, awkward apologies wrapped in baked cheese and nervous smiles. Tom and Evelyn Gray invited him to dinner, but plenty of others still kept their distance. One woman walked past his cabin one morning and muttered "troublemaker" under her breath. Jordan smiled and waved. He got a security system. Top of the line. Cameras on every side of the cabin. Motion lights. Remote access. He also installed a smart lock with temporary code access, for his guests only. When the security rep finished the install, he gave Jordan a long look and said, "You know, you're handling this a lot calmer than most folks would." Jordan just smiled. "I've had practice." He thought more than once about selling. He even pulled up the Zillow estimate. It had gone up, thanks to the story's reach. People were already messaging him, asking if he'd consider renting it out now that it was famous. But every time he scrolled through the listing photos, the view from the porch, the pine tree just beyond the kitchen window, the dent in the cabin beam where he'd bumped his head moving in, he paused. He didn't want to leave. Because the truth was, this place wasn't just a cabin. It was a statement. Every time he sat on that porch with a coffee, or built a fire in the hearth, or paddled a canoe across the misty lake, he was claiming a piece of land that someone else thought he didn't deserve. Every peaceful breath he took here was an act of defiance against the whispered, smiling suggestions to go elsewhere. He wasn't going to give them what they wanted. A few weeks later, he posted a new video. This one was quieter. He filmed himself cleaning up the cabin, repainting the crayon marks, replacing the broken cabinet, setting out fresh bedding. Then, he walked through the house with sunlight pouring through the windows, smiling faintly. He ended the video standing on the porch, the mountains behind him. "People keep asking me if I'm going to leave. I'm not. This is my home. I bought it. I earned it. I care for it. The community didn't welcome me, fine. But I'm not going anywhere. You don't have to be accepted to belong." The video got fewer views than the first one, but it meant more to him. On the first warm weekend of spring, Jordan hosted a cookout. Not an official HOA event. Just a simple invitation to the handful of neighbors who'd reached out, Tom and Evelyn, a younger interracial couple renting nearby, two black doctors from the next town over who'd been following the story online and reached out to say thanks. He grilled ribs and salmon, played jazz on the outdoor speakers, and passed around plates under the sun. They laughed, shared stories, talked about home ownership, about fear, about pride. They made something small but real. A different kind of community. That night, Jordan sat on the porch alone, a blanket around his shoulders, stars blinking through the trees. The wind whispered through the pines, soft and easy. There were no footsteps on the porch, no strange cars in the drive. Just him, and the land he'd fought for. Not with anger, with presence.